Time now for a fantastic panel discussion. I have the pleasure of interviewing 4 leaders from across the world. Adam Zeitsiff, President and CEO of Intelivideo. Sam Canavan, Managing Director for Asia Pacific of ClassPass. Chris Caldwell, CEO of Asia Pacific for Lyft Brands. And Conor co-founder and CEO of Glofox. We're going to be discussing the future of technology, the future of growth for these companies, what the reflections are from 2020, and how we can move forward as an industry in 2021. A really great discussion. I hope you enjoy this. I did. Ladies and gents, welcome to our keynote panel discussion here. It's my absolute pleasure to have Adam, Chris, Conor, and Sam with me. Gents, let's get stuck in straight away. The title of this panel is how we're repositioning our company for new investment and for new growth in tomorrow's marketplace, given all the dynamics. The first question we're going to pose to the panelists, ladies and gentlemen, is how has 2020 impacted your strategy and your vision of how we're going to grow your company? Adam, let me bring you in to answer this question first.
Good to be here with the team, Ross. Appreciate it very much. You know, for us at Intelivideo, our story is a little different because we didn't, of course, couldn't foresee this happening, but our business model was built for what unfortunately is happening in the world. Our job is to help gyms and health clubs and fitness operators hybridize their model so they can complement their in-club offering with a digital strategy, on-demand, live streaming, digital fitness, et cetera. So we did not really have to alter our long-term strategy as much as we had to accelerate it, right? Hybridization has been our model since the day we started almost 7 years ago. And COVID has accelerated this, unfortunately, for the world. And so we had to accelerate our strategy. And we'll talk more about investments and other things of that nature. But for us, we had to focus on accelerating our research and development teams for continuing to enhance our product lines and our sales team and marketing team and success teams and really make sure, which we always were, but even more so, embedding ourselves into that fitness industry ecosystem to really support our customers, to help them not only survive through what's happening now, but also thrive during and then afterward. So that really for us, it wasn't as much a shifting of the strategy, it was as much as it was an acceleration.
Thanks, Adam. I think we saw hybridization now as one of the biggest buzzwords out there in the marketplace. Chris, let me turn to yourself. Of course, you have a portfolio of brands from Snap Fitness to 9Round and of course, Fitness on Demand, a multitude of problems and challenges hitting those businesses. How has 2020 affected you and how has it affected your strategy?
The best thing about 2020 for us in terms of how we view our business is that having a franchise business model made up of hundreds of franchisees in some markets like Australia and New Zealand, smaller numbers of franchisees and master franchisees in some of the Asian countries that we look after for Lyft Brands from the Asia Pacific office here in Australia. The one thing it's done is really sort of confirm the value of a franchise business model and watching the way our franchisees have handled and continue to handle some of the changing conditions and changing government restrictions that apply in different states has really reconfirmed our belief in the franchise business model. And, you know, we feel really positive about that moving forward, having such a passionate group of business owners with a wide collection of IP has enabled us to overcome most of the challenges that have been thrown our way so far. So the one thing this year has done is really confirm our belief in our business model strategy.
Conor, you're working with a multitude of different gyms and studios from larger box to mid box, small box, franchise. How has 2020 affected your long-term vision?
Yeah, look, I suppose like our long-term strategy is all about adding value to the industry, and our role, as you pointed out, is, you know, it's aligning with these fitness entrepreneurs to build, you know, growing successful businesses. And I think, you know, what Adam touched on is definitely relevant. Like COVID hasn't necessarily created any new behaviors; it's more accelerated a lot of these underlying trends. So a lot of our customers, most of them have gone online, some as a short-term measure for survival, some have built thriving hybrid businesses. And back in March and April, when our customers started running these online classes, we knew we had to be quick off the mark. And many of them made the leap overnight. And we had to help facilitate that best we could. And we launched live streaming, we launched, you know, on-demand platform to enable that. But, you know, consumers' expectations has ultimately changed, and many expect this online element, you know, and for us, We got to keep doing these things and keep adapting, and if we do that, we'll remain on our path to achieve our long-term goals.
Thanks, Conor. Sam, of course, you're representing a global brand here, both in terms of B2B and B2C marketplace, both of which have been obviously hit hard through this crisis, but we're both seeing them recover now. What are your reflections on 2020 and where ClassPass needs to move to?
A bit of an oxymoron in 2020. It certainly feels that way. I feel like I've written one strategy and torn it up about 48 hours later, maybe 10 times during the course of this year. So I look back on our start of year strategy and it's it's quite a wistful document, certainly. But I just say there are four things for us that we really focus on. One is that I'm very fortunate for my part of the world is that Asia Pacific has become a bigger focus than ever before in ClassPass world. So we were always traditionally about 80% a North American business. We all know that's the genesis of ClassPass. We expanded into Asia a few years ago, acquired Glofox. Then it was more about a European surge. And this year it was supposed to be about, a lot of Africa and sort of tidying up the rest of Europe. So with COVID hitting, initially the thinking was, well, it started in China. Asia is going to be one of the worst affected areas. But very thankfully, we've seen responses from a lot of Asian governments being a lot more buttoned up, and certainly North America. So our business has gone, well, we need to invest more in China especially, which to be honest wasn't a market that we've given too much time or attention, and is now literally our fastest growing market in ClassPass at the moment. And certainly markets like Singapore, where I know we've probably all been slightly frustrated at the Singapore approach, but what it has done is that erring on the side of caution means we've got a lot more confidence in Singapore's rebound coming into 2021. So an Asian focus. And then the other thing I touch on for ClassPass is wellness. So we'd always talked about wellness. We'd always talked about aggregating fitness, of course, which is our bread and butter, especially studio fitness. There's always excess inventory. But wellness is something our users always talked about. They said, I can only go and smash myself at a 9-round or a Barry's or a Rumble, 2 or 3 times a week. My central nervous system's taxed, my adrenals are shot. So I want to get a massage. I want to get cryotherapy. I want to get saunas. To be honest, we'd always said, that's kind of nice. Let's go and keep partnering with fitness studios. So 2020 and COVID has forced us to actually go, no, wellness needs to be a stand-up, additional complementary aspect to ClassPass so we can try and give our users that 360-degree experience. So coming into 2021, what that means is wellness is just as big a factor and a priority for us as fitness. So that's quite a wholesale shift.
Thanks, Sam. Great to see so many markets coming online for you guys. And I think corporate wellness is one really to watch in the future. Adam, let me pull you back the conversation to yourself, because like you say with Intelivideo, you've been around this model of hybridization for quite some time, but now it's been fast-tracked and almost every single company is having to consider some type of virtual model or some type of virtual revenue stream in their business. Where are you going to have to now invest for long-term growth in the future? Because demand is probably going to outstrip supply soon. What are your thoughts on where your next investments are?
Yeah, I mean, certainly for us, it's a combination of it's technology investments, it's people investments, it's branding and messaging and things of that nature. And having been in this industry for a while, we were very embedded in the fitness ecosystem, but we've got a lot of work to do still. So we've been embedding ourselves even further. We're investing in that first and foremost, integrating in the US and around the world in global point of sale systems and mobile integrations, and any technology that touches the inside of the club or studio, we want to integrate with, so we make it easier for that fitness business to complement their offering with the digital studio, with digital offering. So we're focused on that investment. We've added a bunch of new features, functionality to our product from an R&D perspective as well, and functional aspects, like for example, the latest version of our live streaming and all the data and analytics around that, because people are using that to really drive their decision making of what they're offering. And then the engagement features. We all know why people love Peloton so much. Their engagement, there's a sense of community, and our goal is to help clubs and studios provide that, right, for their member base. So calendaring and new forums and workout ranking and leaderboards and challenges are all things that we're investing in now and deploying into our platform. So you can get that from your local gym down the street when you're engaged with them, when you're not in the club, just like you can from one of these big direct to consumer fitness providers. And then lastly, it's the people side, right? You've got to invest in your people, the training, the support. We're ramping up in customer success and marketing and our content strategy teams. And we do focus on helping our operators from a strategic standpoint, not just the platform. So we help them not only deploy the platform, we help them with their marketing strategies. How do you market to get members engaged in the platform? Once they're engaged, how do you keep them there? And then what's the right content strategy? And we have a team of experts that works with them. So we really are investing in all areas because we do feel the next 2 or 3 years, certainly this pandemic has changed people's approach, and it's not going to go away, and hybrid is here to stay. And so we're investing heavily to support that. Thanks,
Adam. Chris, you're wearing almost 2 hats because, of course, you have to invest for the benefit of the member and you also have to invest for the benefit of the franchisee. What are your thoughts in terms of how you're going to manage to cater to both of those and where you're going to be investing to meet their needs?
Yeah, great question, Ross. And we, I think initially when the clubs started closing down in the Asia Pacific region back in March, for us to be able to continue to service our members, to continue to give our franchisees an opportunity for their businesses to continue, we put a significant investment into our fitness on demand business, obviously, which was playing in this space already. And we released a Flex product back in March, which has had a fantastic period of the last 6 months, 6 or 7 months, obviously. And it's enabled that flexibility for clubs and not just for our brands, but for other brands as well. I mean, 90% of Fitness on Demand's customers are not Lift brands. They're actually other independent brands. I guess, that was probably the initial stage, but then like everything, as you're getting into that period of the pandemic where investment questions were being considered, the opportunity to invest in advance and early, so that you were in the right spot to come out the other side of the pandemic. And that investment was made by us around June or July, a lot into people. And we're now starting to see the benefit of that, particularly in the Asia Pacific region where we're probably less impacted than some of our Northern Hemisphere colleagues.
Thanks, Chris. Conor, I mean, incredibly, you raised some capital through the crisis in the summer. Congratulations to you and the team. Where are you going to be deploying this for future functionality and future growth, shall we say? I mean, Glowfox has obviously gone through some really significant growth in the past few years, but let's just say that the past few years have been Glowfox 1.0. What is Glowfox 2.0?
Yeah, it kind of echoes a lot of Chris and Adam's answers too, where it's like the real investments are product and people, right? For us on the people front, we've definitely matured our org, brought in senior leadership, particularly focusing in on our engineering side. So a new CTO, new head of quality, infra, UX, data, and a lot of engineering hires. So we're continuing to make those advancements in innovation and creativity and really kind of doubling down there and being strong there. For us as a business, our mission is to be essentially the operating system for the fitness industry, on where we've cut our teeth and our DNA is started in SMB. We've grown and we've moved up the chain over time. So a big part of our investment this year and going forward is really maturing the offering from the enterprise side and creating more kind of consolidation and offerings around that, as well as being adaptive to the industry changes that we've all seen and towards that shift towards the hybrid model. I think what we've seen in the last year has been that accelerated trend where members' expectations are higher, and we all recognize that the experience can't really start and stop at the doors of the gym anymore, and so our ability to continue to invest in innovation that's enabling our customers to extend that experience and look at themselves as a brand and not a physical location, and that's kind of the way that we look at it.
Thanks, Conor. And then Sam, last but not least, again, you're wearing kind of 2 hats here. One, of course, is your member. And of course, the other one is your partners, who you're working so closely with. I just had a conversation with Anthony Geisler, and we talked about the partnership that you've created with Exponential Fitness, which looks fantastic. Where do you have to invest long-term for growth? Is it alongside partners? Is it alongside functionality for members? Is it a blend?
Well, they're not necessarily mutually exclusive, but the one North Star of ClassPass has always been, we are only as good as the quality of our partners. And that was the very first thing that we prioritized the minute COVID hit was how can we help our partners? And Ross, was trying to lobby governments, getting petitions signed, waiving commissions, all these sorts of things, because we knew this was going to be an incredibly tough year. So what could we do to make sure our partners were in as strong a position as possible? So that's the thing we've invested in above all else is our partners. So it's technology. It's even little things in the app, like being able to surface, DEIB badges to show this is a black-owned studio or a female-owned studio. We've actually doubled down on the diversity component, which has been nice, giving partners the ability to easily and more quickly liquidate excess inventory or merchandise in a different way, or market to our users in a different way, even down to we've been helping partners buy sites. So we've said we've got a finger on the pulse here. We know that this partner's about to have to give up this site. It's a distressed asset. This is maybe something that could be interesting for your brand to go into, and just try to facilitate connections between, bigger, maybe private equity-backed businesses and other landlords and different partners as well who are interested in maybe expanding. And then also almost acting like consultants for our partners. And it's something that we've always talked about at ClassPass, and to be frank, amidst the mayhem, we probably haven't done as much as we could. So we always say to a partner, we've got a big business intelligence team, we've got incredibly smart people running this business. Treat us like your PwC or Accenture. Sit down with us, we'll present you a deck, we'll crunch some numbers, we'll talk to you about this is what you should be doing with your scheduling. If you were to move your 6 a.m. class to 6:15, judging by all the numbers around you and your competitors in this aggregated data, you might get 20% more reservations, or look at this location, or whatever it is. We need to be acting as consultants. We've got proprietary data that nobody else has, and to be honest, we, amidst all the busyness, have not been amazing at sort of sharing that in the past. So we've prioritized that. And then just really quickly on our users, that again, our sort of guiding light with our users was to be as conservative as possible with our billing. And we can probably talk about this later as a bit of a brand moment, but we said from the start, we're going to pause your billing, freeze you, not charge you a thing, and essentially not force you to turn it back on. And we've arguably been too generous, I think, to be honest, but this is something that we thought, if we can be the brand who, instead of kind of feeling like we pull the rug out from under our users, if we say things are tumultuous, things are changing all the time, we're going to keep you frozen until a point in which your market is all guns blazing again, it's going to ultimately, hopefully, have a nice little halo effect for our brand long term. So very conservative on the user side and consultative on the partner side. They're our two sort of biggest focuses this year.
Well, I can speak firsthand, Sam. We're a customer of ClassPass on the corporate side, and it's been great to work with you and the team. The flexibility has been fantastic, and I think everyone really appreciates that. Gents, let me try and dig into your mindset at the moment in time, because we're talking about investing for growth, and we're talking about making sure our businesses are more future-proof in the going forward. To do this, of course, we have to spend time, we have to spend money, we have to spend capital. When you're thinking about your investment decisions, what is pushing you forward and what is pulling you back from making that decision at a moment in time? Chris, let me take you first on that. What's positively pushing you forward and what's negatively pushing you back?
Well, I guess the good thing from Conor's perspective is that we didn't make any changes around our work we're doing with Glofox earlier in the year when things started to slow down a bit. We've continued that on, and we're now starting to ramp that up. So that's certainly been pretty important for us. It's a combination of investment into the bricks and mortar element of our business and also an investment into the digital side of our business. And there's no doubt, COVID has amped up the need for members of all of our clubs to want to try and mix up what they do. And, I think Sam mentioned earlier, sometimes they want to come into the club 3 or 4 times a week. Sometimes they might want to do something else at home, or it might be more about wellness. So us having a blend of those two things is really important for us moving forward. We do want to invest in both, though. We're certainly not saying that we just want to invest in one of those areas. We want to invest in both the bricks and mortar element of our business, because we think that's still a massive part of a member experience moving forward. They still want to love going into a club, working out with a community and enjoying that aspect of their training. Having the digital aspect to complement that kind of gives us a bricks and mortar approach. We've got our bricks and mortar, and the clubs are actually the bricks, and the digital element is the mortar that fits in between those bricks to really build a nice solid wall for our members. So we're certainly investing in both those two parts of our business.
Thanks, Chris. Adam, let me pull you in here because, of course, your former job at Gold's Gym, this is exactly what you were doing. You were looking at it through the eyes of an operator and a franchisor. What are your thoughts in terms of, what are some of the decision makings that the operators are going through at the moment in time that you can relate to? What's pushing them forward? What's pulling them back? And of course, similar for your own new company at the moment in time, where are you pushing forward for new investment?
Yeah, I mean, at Golds, it was a survival mode, right? So you're investing in anything that will help keep the lights on and as an operator. And I think part of that is the digital side, and part of that is just engagement in the community and things of that nature. And that's first and foremost on operators' minds right now. And I think for us as a small but growing technology company, I think we have, and I think Conor can relate to this. He's growing like crazy, but we have decisions that are changing on the fly. And I think Sam said he ripped up a few business plans every 48 hours. And I think as a small business for us, right now, for example, we are investing in the short term. We because of the unfortunate situation in the world, we're in a huge growth stage, and we're investing in anything that will support that growth, right? So first and foremost, we're investing in our sales and marketing, our success teams, and as a CEO, my mind goes to that. How do I support? What decisions can I make to push this growth forward and help us attract customers, onboard them, and get them rolling? At the same time, I'm already thinking, probably 2 quarters down the road to say, okay, I'm going to have all these new customers. What do I need to do to make sure we, as a small but growing technology company, can support those customers and give them the feature functionality that they're looking for, and make sure that when they're on after 3 or 4 months, that they have the features that their customers want, and the engagement pieces and the things that we're adding right now in the community and the leaderboards and the forums and things that keep people engaged in the digital platform that everyone on this call can relate to. And so we are thinking short term, and I hate to say long term because 2 quarters is not long term, although in technology it's a lifetime. But as a small company too, when we make these decisions, I think, and this is a good or bad, and I'm sure Conor can agree, that you can pivot quickly. All of a sudden you can pivot very quickly as a small company, and sometimes that can be a positive because you can pivot, and sometimes that's a negative because you can get a little, my dog in the backyard with the squirrel, be all over the place, and you have to really keep your focus. But I think we are really investing in short-term growth, attracting those new customers, and making sure we don't forget about the long-term piece, about making sure they can stay engaged, that their members stay engaged, and we can make sure they've got a viable digital complement to their brick and mortar businesses for the long term.
Conor, can you relate? I mean, as a growing business owner, momentum is key, but of course you don't want to overstretch yourself. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, 100% relate to Adam's answer there. Like, for us, that ability to be nimble and be agile is great, and it's what a crisis like this comes around, and the world looks a lot different, and we very much position ourselves in from a point of view being able to support driving member experience and really focusing strongly on member retention and getting members back in the club using services. So a lot of like what COVID then accelerated played into our hands a bit on that. So we in general we do try to limit the amount of large investments that we make, and we focus on where we can see these bigger long-term wins. We try to align as well to, not just saying it because Chris is on the call, but more visionary type customers, particularly that have a big influence on our roadmap. Teams that we can work with to not just build for the now, but build for where we see there's a common path and a common vision, and that decision is has served us well to date, and particularly where you're trying to combine this with market insights from a large collection of SMBs and make sure that even like internationally focused, you're kind of skating towards where the puck is headed. And I think, you having that opinion, combining that with market insights and aligning with some great visionary customers has been the best way that we've made our investment decisions.
Thanks, Conor. And Sam, you've got the potential, of course, to either invest large into some areas of the business and maybe just slightly smaller into other parts. What are your thoughts on how you balance that equilibrium of maybe more transformational investments versus more short-term incremental investments?
Yeah, look, to be entirely candid, Ross, I mean, we raised our funding, of course, in January of this year, which certainly was a godsend, but probably the overwhelming factor in any investment, or even think about our OPEX generally and whether we're pulling bucket from here to pour into another bucket, we're really being pragmatic about the state of the world. And that was something that from the start, we were talking to a lot of fitness operators, a lot of people in the industry were saying this is something that's going to be fleeting or passing quickly. And essentially, we're going to have a status quo, which is January 2020. And guiding all of our decisions this year was this acknowledgement that, to everybody else's point, COVID has not been a change agent so much as an accelerant. And everything that we were seeing at the start of the year was only going to accelerate tenfold. Nothing happens in decades happen in months. That's what it felt like. So just being very conscious of the second order effects of this. And the guiding principle was, we know that the world is never going to be the same, certainly not the fitness and wellness world. So how can we think a little bit further ahead? What is 2021 going to look like? And trying to split it geographically as well. So what does North America look like in 2021? It might be, can we help our studios with distressed assets, for example? What does Asia look like? Can we lean into digital a bit more, or can we double down in a market like China where we think the government response has been a little bit better? So just ruthless pragmatism about the state of the world and certainly what next year is going to look like. And then, to be honest, thinking about, well, how do we reduce burn rate? Because we know that revenues make a business, burn rate does not. And as a business, we were 98% down on revenue. So being really honest, okay, does a short-term offensive play ultimately hinder us in the long term? And we've been, to be honest, Ross, quite cautious. So it's more about sort of pooling away the capital we have at hand to know, okay, we're safe with this war chest for 2021 because there's just been so much uncertainty. So quite cautious and thinking about second order effects of this, knowing that the world certainly will never be the same.
Let me follow up on Sam with this next question. We're all in this call being incredibly value add when it comes to serving our partners and our community across 2020. That's what we've done in spades. We can sit here and talk about investing in technology. We can sit here and talk about investing in new services and products. But ultimately, let's talk about brand. Let's talk about our people. Sam, how have you built up more brand equity? How have you strengthened your company culture across 2020?
Well, we certainly had to pull any slated billboards or any above-line advertising that we had. That was the first thing that the CFO said, let's cut. So it hasn't been through, and I think a lot of the people on this call could resonate with this, it hasn't been through explicit brand activity. We all know that brand is that sort of ineffable quality, and a billboard or any other big media buy can be the first thing to go. So for us, it was always, I talked about this before, but this could be a brand moment. COVID could be a brand moment for companies. And we saw there were some horror stories, I'm sure everyone was across them at the start of COVID, where a brand like Equinox was a little bit slow in stopping their billing, for example. And we saw examples of brands where there were COVID cases in their studio and it came out through the press 3 or 4 weeks later and they tried to bury it. So we just said, let's be radically transparent here. Let's talk about the state of our business and let's say we're going to keep you on pause for as long as you need to. We're not going to bill you. You will have the opportunity to essentially stay frozen and use your ClassPass credits as well. So that's the decision. We said you can basically create your own pay-as-you-go plan. So you have credits banked. We're not going to charge you to stay frozen. Use as many or as little as you like. And then at some point when you feel safe enough to go back into studios, we might start billing you, because we were conscious that we knew from all our surveying that people were not necessarily feeling safe. The idea of sweating in close confines and more so the unknown. Is that studio sanitizing properly? Is there proper social distancing? That was something that was just changing location to location. So we were very conservative on the user side to try and have that brand moment. And so far for us, that's proven really effective. And then just really quickly on the culture, I think for ClassPass, we ended up taking a little bit of a stoic approach, because we realized that ultimately a lot of our staff were suffering in imagination rather than reality, thinking about worst case scenarios, this idea of, suffering. He who suffers before it's necessary suffers more than necessary. So we really lent into that and just said, look, this is something that's ultimately out of all of our control. This is completely exogenous and external. It's a once in a lifetime pandemic, the likes of which hasn't been seen for 100 years. So we are doing ClassPass no good at all to sit here and stress about all these hypotheticals, which ultimately are almost certainly never going to come to fruition. So it was just sort of forcing our staff to sit with this. Yes, it's a bit uncomfortable, being honest about that. It's tough. Sometimes you feel really flat. That's totally fine. Take some extra days off, look after yourself, but not skirting the fact that this was difficult. And ultimately, there was no point in us sort of trying to force change onto an environment that ultimately we have no control over. So that's how we've been tackling it from a cultural perspective and a brand perspective.
Thanks, Sam. Conor, over to yourself. As a service provider to the marketplace, there were very difficult challenges you had to face in the first couple of quarters. I mean, this was something you'd never faced before. Were the staff a little bit apprehensive about what the future held for them? And how did you manage to build in the confidence, build in the assurance, and then, of course, add the culture?
Yeah, like a lot of what Sam says really resonates. With us, we were fortunate too that we had just gotten capital over the line, so we just done a fundraise just around really where the pandemic started to really kick off. So in terms of the leaning up of the business that we did, we really focused on areas where we had kind of created a bit of fat that could be cut through, and to be honest, it was nearly invigorating to create a healthier business and be forced to do that. Not saying that we didn't have a few hard days, particularly at the early stages of this, where we wanted to have, to cut deep and cut once, and that's our approach that we took, and we managed to stick to that. So we were very very much took the approach that we were going to over communicate with everyone on the team. We still run 2 all hands every week. We're very lucky in that we've hired great problem solvers, and we just shared the problems, and they've come up with creative solutions, and really stepped up to the challenges with this. So I'm a real firm believer, and particularly this quote resonates with me, was where a crisis doesn't build character, it reveals it. So there's been a lot of people that have really stood up to the plate and kind of taken ownership here, and we've come out a lot stronger as a result. And I think it's been one of the it's been the biggest pride I'd say I've had throughout this pandemic is the team reaction, and how knitted together we've come. And even when Sam talking about it, where we're now just a lot more open with things. There's more of this overlap with personal things, with kids running in, with being able to share more of the anxiety with with what's going on outside of just the pure work side. And we've tried to create moments to enable people to share that, and to make it very open, and even as a leader, be vulnerable, right, too, and kind of share what's going on outside of your world, and show that it's okay, or it is crazy, we're all going through this together, and we're all learning, and we're all trying to do the best we can together. And I think the reaction that we've gotten from that has been great.
Chris, what are your thoughts on this? Because you came into the business only this year, and into a fantastic role, but obviously into crisis management and into having to hold a lot of franchisees' hands through this challenging time. How did you manage to do that? And of course, what were maybe some of the additions you put in there and put in place to add to the culture?
Yeah, thanks, Ross. I think I'll talk more about the cultural piece, I think, than the brand equity piece to your question. But our business, with the appointment of Ty Menzies, who obviously is a regular panelist and guest on your series, moving into the global CEO role in the US. And I'm sure Ty won't mind me saying this, but Ty by nature is an over-communicator. So, it's the perfect fit at the perfect time for this business. And I would say, and we were actually only talking about this yesterday, coincidentally, we would say that the last 6 months, the global leadership team within Lift Brands, across the Snap Fitness and 9 Round and Fitness on Demand brands, has probably come together a lot closer, similar to what Conor was just saying. We've really knitted together, across the and we have time zone challenges like we have on this call today, but we have time zone challenges across the UK and Australia and New Zealand and the US. But it really has that over-communicating over the last couple of months, both with our franchisees and internally with ourselves across the different regions, to ensure all of the support functions were on hand to be able to help the different regions as they needed it, because the Southern Hemisphere was having challenges at different times to the Northern Hemisphere. And you can see right now the Northern Hemisphere is hugely challenged with COVID, whereas in the Southern Hemisphere we're starting to look like we're in a reasonably good spot, and we're starting to live with it a little bit better. But it's certainly brought all of us a lot closer together by having a lot of these, and I love having Zoom calls with you, Ross, but having a lot of these calls on a very regular basis with both our franchisees across Australia and New Zealand and our Asian masters. The biggest challenge and disappointment has not been able to get to visit some of these people face to face. And that, as much as good as Zoom calls are, face-to-face communication with our master franchisees in Asia, with our franchisees throughout Australia and New Zealand is by far the best. But having those very regular Zoom calls with all of those groups of people has actually really brought us a lot closer together in a lot of ways.
Thanks, Chris. Adam, I know that you've probably had the same challenges, of course, during the first part of the year with Gold's Gym. Now you've stepped into Intelivideo, you're coming into a high growth stage in your company. And of course, it's very important to have that culture locked down early as you grow forward. What are your thoughts on how you're going to be building that brand equity and this culture from the start and moving up as the company continues to grow?
Yeah, it's interesting for us. We are, again, a small company. And I think not many people knew who we were pre-pandemic. We had some great customers and some great brands, don't get me wrong, but we have catapulted forward. And so what we're focused on this year is certainly building that brand equity and that messaging, getting it out there better, because we've now been able to grow a lot revenue-wise and customer-wise. So the first and foremost for us, what's the messaging look like in the marketplace, and how are we talking about our company? We're very fitness-focused now, and we've revamped our website and our messaging to talk to that and to relate to club operators. And doing events like this and being on these things really helps get our brand out there. And I think from a cultural standpoint, I was not in the company during the throes of the pandemic. I was still at Gold's, but I was a customer. So I knew what they were doing and what they were working on. And I was proud as a customer, and even more proud now as the CEO of how this company came together. And they realized, and at the time during the height of the pandemic, and even now, more than ever now, that we have a chance to work closely, to be a real valued partner to our club operator customers and our fitness brands around the world, because they need us now more than ever. And I think we as a company have come together as a small company with that kind of our time is now kind of mentality. This is our chance to shine. And something like that really drives an organization together. And most of these people are located in our Denver office in Colorado, and most of them are home, so they don't see each other, but they're used to being close together. But we got through that hump through all the technology that's helped, and really helped the team come together as if they were working in the same room all the time to help our customers. And so I think moving forward, we're going to build on that culture, that we are here to help our customers survive and thrive through this. And that has really built the bond with our team. And as we continue to expand our team, which we're doing a lot right now, those people need to come in with that same understanding, as we are here to serve. We are here to support our club operators and our fitness businesses to make sure that they can be there, and the way that they put food on the table can survive through this.
Thanks, Adam. We've got 2 questions left, ladies and gents, and we're going to turn the spotlight into the people themselves here. So, gents, 2 more personal questions, the first of which will be, as a business leader, what challenges, unexpected and expected, have you had to overcome this year? Adam, let me come straight back at yourself. Challenges you've overcome, both the unknown and the known. What were your reflections?
How long do we have? It's I feel like for me, just because of the change, I feel like I've lived 2 lives this year, right? The first of it was through the pandemic at Gold's, and it was a hell of a time. It was a hell of a year, and I think the hardest part there, I know a lot of the operators who are listening and on this call, you all went through the same things, but the hardest and unexpected challenge there was having to make a decision that affected so many people's lives. And this in the U.S., it really hit us in mid-late March. And having to make those decisions and having to sit there and decide to shut down hundreds of clubs and furlough 4,000 or 5,000 people and put them out of work and take a paycheck out of their pocket, not wanting to do it. But those were challenges. And that, as leaders and the folks on this call and the folks watching this, that is something obviously very difficult and a challenge. And I think you learn from that. I know I learned that sometimes you just have to do things that are not within your control, even if they're terrible things, like telling someone, hey, you're not going to have a paycheck for a while, but that's what's expected of us as leaders. And it's certainly difficult. It was certainly not expected going into the end of February into March at Gold's. We were having a banner year, and those were things that happened. And then fast forward post a bankruptcy process and everything that happened with Gold's, moving into Intelivideo, taking that hat off, for me, a challenge, taking the global CEO hat off of a multi-unit brand, operator brand, and going back into the technology world and fitness, and trying to lead that company remotely right now in the middle of, with basically a quasi-lockdown still here in the States. But we're a fast-paced company. And so really coming to grips with myself on how to manage it, how to manage my time, and how to work with people remotely, and to be in a position to help people, but do all that. And it's a good problem to have, because we're growing so quickly. But for me, it was a completely different shift, starting one life in March when this all went down, into another life now in November where we are. So certainly been an unexpected set of challenges throughout the year, but you learn a ton, and you learn a lot about yourself and who you are as a human being and a person, and hopefully you grow from it.
Yeah, I think a lot of lots of things that Adam I can relate to myself personally. Chris, yourself, what challenges have you overcome this year, and perhaps what in 2020 will you reflect on and say that was good and bad?
Yeah, I think the hardest challenge is inevitably there are clubs that do close through periods like this and don't reopen. I guess the reality is COVID probably brought some of those things forward. You know, some clubs are in a great location 10 years ago is not always a great location today. Something like the pandemic and clubs being closed for 3, 4, 5 months probably brought some of those decisions forward. And you never like closing a club. You could open 20 and close one, and you'd still hate the one that you closed. You know, it would really, really grind on you. So that was obviously the hardest part of this year. I think the unexpected part is the challenge that you find yourself in, where you're having to dig into your wells of empathy a lot deeper than you might have had to before any other time in your life. And sometimes, reassuring people, particularly franchisees and team members, reassuring people that things will be okay, when in the back of your mind, you don't know if you're actually telling the truth, because you don't know. And you're making those calls and you're reassuring people, but at the same time, you're thinking, well, what's happening to my family? What's happening to my kids? Are they going to be okay? Is everything, what about my parents? They're elderly. All these sorts of conversations are going through in your own mind, but at the same time, on the exterior, you're trying to be very calm and cool and collected and, saying everything's under control. It's all good, guys. We'll be okay. In the back of your mind, you've got all those personal demons running around as well. So that's probably been the biggest, unexpected challenge, but the big learning that you take away is the ability to push yourself to a spot where you can be empathetic when you're going through those thoughts yourself as well.
Thanks, Chris. Sam, your thoughts?
So ultimately, as leaders, it's sort of implicit that we're paid for our decision-making, we're paid for our strategy, we're paid for our guidance, we're paid to show the way forward for a business. So for me, the single hardest thing has been not being able to have that necessarily. Things have been changing at a rate of knots, and living with that uncertainty as a leader has been incredibly difficult. And we all know from a mental health perspective, even if you're furloughed as a staff member, you're actually more likely to have mental health issues than a staff member who was laid off completely, because the uncertainty lingers and hangs over you. And it's just, I found that really taxing, Ross, not knowing from one day to the next what's going to happen. So the biggest thing that I've taken out of 2020 is just, it's forced me to reconcile that, and it's forced me to be a lot more open and honest and vulnerable, certainly, in this position, and to say that ultimately I'm going to do the best I can with what I know now, but when I know better, I'm going to do better. And I'm human, and this is totally fine. And for all the, me being bombastic or positive, all of that, sometimes you put your hand up and you say, I made the wrong decision, but I was doing the best I could at that time. And I think sometimes as leaders, we tend to project this facade of impenetrability, or, this sort of edifice almost of constant positivity and strategic nous. And for me, it's been quite confronting. Put the ego aside and say, we don't have all the answers sometimes. So never being tied to an outcome, and just remembering that ultimately happiness is your reality minus your expectations. So the higher your expectations are, the more likely you are to be disappointed. And that's been hammering home to me time and time and time again. So just live in the present. This is all we have. Be here now, and don't get too tethered to an end result, lest you're disappointed.
Yeah, I think leaders who breed empathy and breed vulnerability will definitely succeed more in 2021, and especially those that can create fulfillment over happiness for their employees. Very important. Conor, your thoughts on this last question?
It's one of those ones I wish you asked me before you asked Sam, because it was kind of like, I was like, lack of predictability and uncertainty has definitely been the hardest challenge of this year. And having that smile on your face, like sometimes you feel like you're schizophrenic, right? It's like that, even when Chris is saying, people look to you for the answers, and there's just so much imperfect information. Like we all know, being a leader anyway, the challenge is to operate with imperfect information and to make the best decision where it feels like there's no right decision. But like 2020 definitely tested that to a point. And I think, it's been it's been a massive challenge on that side, and the overlays then with your own personal life. I basically just moved over to the US. I'd sold a house in Dublin. I had to kind of pack up the family life, get this back, and in the midst of all this, you're going through all these challenges in the industry with the team, and you know, it all falls at your feet a bit. So it's, you know, it's, at some point it can kind of feel like you're operating in burnout. And I think the biggest learning for me was, you know, to really just extract myself and just kind of take stock and you know, have a look around and just, you know, put things in perspective. And I think, you know, COVID has definitely done that. You know, you take more, probably you might hit pleasures in more simple things in life now as a result of COVID, but it's definitely given me more confidence to act in an environment where there is a lot of uncertainty and there is a lot less predictability. And you know, I just like to touch on too, obviously from our side, we serve, you know, SMB and enterprise, and a lot of the SMBs, it was just so heartbreaking to see a lot of these smaller businesses just, you know, their whole life and their whole dreams kind of shattering. And you know, what was fulfilling though was the ones that we were able to support in kind of creating a bit more of a digital element on their bricks and mortar. And you know, some of them were able to adapt and some others weren't. And the ones that were able to survive, it was really fulfilling for us and the team to be able to play our small part in that. But overall, look, I think, you know, it's a year we like to see the back off.
Thanks, gents. All good, positive things you've got to take forward. And I think it's very important for us now to focus on the positive. One final question, 30 seconds each, gents. I'm going to ask you, what has kept a smile on your face in 2020? And perhaps just a closing motivational phrase or thought just to share with the audience. So what's kept a smile on your face and a closing motivational thought? Sam, you're up first.
COVID will be the great reprioritization of what people spend their time and money on. And there is no way that we emerge from a post-COVID world without exercise and looking after yourself mentally and physically being close to the top of that tree. I firmly believe that. And then exercise for me, and I probably drank a lot of Kool-Aid, and I have to say this, but regularly exercising the whole way through COVID has been what's put a smile on my face more than anything. We know that 3/4 of the factors contributing to depression can be allayed with exercise. It has this wonderful flow-on effect to every other part of your life. So I would say that think of a health or a wellness retreat or some huge moment of health and wellness in your year. That's equivalent of going to the dentist, but exercising every single day or close to it is like brushing your teeth, and you've got to brush your teeth. And I think more and more people are going to brush their teeth in a post-COVID world.
Great thought, Sam. Chris, your thought?
Well, it's pretty hard to wipe the smile off my face most of the time, Ross, but I'd say the things that have kept a smile on my face this year would be some of the government responses, some of the policies that have been put in place. That's from a sarcastic point of view, has put a smile on my face. Watching members return so quickly to the clubs when they've reopened has by far been, the great, reaffirming quality that's come out of this is that literally as soon as they were open, members were straight back in, and as Sam said, they're exercising, getting back into exercise straight away, which is great. And the last thing for me that's kept a smile on my face, although at times has been challenging because of the travel restrictions. I've been separated from my wife and kids for 4 months now, so next week I'll get to see them again. So that'll certainly put a smile on my face. So I'm looking forward to that.
That sounds like a great way to start the festive season, Chris. Conor, your motivational thought and what's kept a smile on your face?
So keeping a smile on my face, like professionally, definitely how the team have reacted and stepped up. I get, it's been definitely keeping me going. I'd like to echo too Chris's comment there on the confidence we have with people coming back in, attending gyms and clubs. That's really just given that comfort, that experience is always going to be really important, and you can't replace that. And on the personal side, I'm spending a lot less time on a plane, spending more time with the kids, and having those little moments even in between work is quite nice, and it's great. And then maybe the motivational thought, I like that one. It's it's hard to beat a person who never gives up, Babe Ruth. So yeah, I think that's definitely something that, again, 2020, I feel it's pretty relevant.
Thanks, Conor. Adam, you've got the closing thought.
Oh, a lot of pressure. So I would be lying if I didn't say red wine, because that's put a smile on my face a lot the last 6 months. So let's not kid each other, fellas. I can't believe no one said that. But but other than that, listen, I've got a 15-month-old baby that's put a smile on my face a lot. I got 3 great older kids as well. I think family's been a resounding theme. I'm not only on this call, but I think everyone around the world has gotten much closer to their family during this time, because A, we were forced to, but B, it obviously was a byproduct of what happened. And it's been a real pleasure here and put a smile on my face. And I think, for me, listen, and I think we come to work every day and we get something that most people don't. Everyone on this call, most people listening, we get to go to a job where we get to help people every day. And that's really what motivates me. And that's, if I was going to leave a parting thought, is let's not forget that we make a difference. And you guys have all said it in one way or another in other questions and answers, but we get to make a difference in people's lives. We get to help them be healthier. We get to help them survive and thrive during this. And so for me, coming to work every day and knowing that what we do, whether it's as an operator, as a vendor that helps operators, that helps people exercise and get in shape and live a healthier and active lifestyle, that's motivating. And I think we should all remember that we are doing something here that's not just good for the outside and the physical appearance, but it's good for the inside. And I don't think very many industries can say that. And I think we've got a challenge ahead of us, because now the pressure is on. We've told the world we can do this, and now we need to continue as an industry to do this in 21 and beyond.
Well said, Adam. Very, very well said. I, for one, have enjoyed my red wine. I did a sober October, which was not as enjoyable as I thought it was going to be honest with you, gents. So the workouts and red wine were definitely up there for smiles on my face. But more seriously, yeah, every single one on this panel, ladies and gentlemen, has strived every day of this year through good and bad to make sure their companies are better and they can serve people to be happier and healthier. And so it's an absolute pleasure and a privilege to be sharing the panel with them. Adam, Chris, Conor, Sam, gents, thank you all for your time. I wish you continued good luck across 2020 into 2021. Here's to a brighter year ahead, and here's to making sure we raise the bar even further. See you soon.
Hey everyone, my name is Adam Zeitsiff, and I'm the president and CEO of Intelivideo. At Intelivideo, we help fitness businesses survive and thrive through COVID times and beyond by providing a complement to their in-club solution with our digital fitness offering. We do this through our best-in-class technology platform, our onboarding and marketing support, and our content strategy support with our fitness-focused team. If you're interested in learning more about how Intelivideo can help hybridize and transform your business to not only survive but thrive for the long term, send us an email at team@intelivideo.com, and we'd love to chat with you.